I say aloe, often the first and only plant species that comes to mind is aloe vera, that remarkable medicinal wonder plant that we can use to treat burns and cuts and you name it. But the aloe family is so much broader and diverse than just that one particular species. And so today, I want to take you on a little bit of a journey into the remarkable world of aloes, share with you a few different species, like this amazing little Aloe castilloniae here, and maybe even provide a few tips and a bit of advice on how best to care for them and even propagate them, because we can always have more, right? So anyway, let's get stuck into the wonderful world of aloes. Aloes are members of the Asphodelaceae family, which puts them fairly closely related to plants like your haworthias. And when you look at them side by side, you can kind of see the commonalities. Flowers coming up on a spike and nice little rosettes of leaves emerging from a central stem. Although this one's a whole lot more gnarly than this one. When it comes to their natural habitat, you can find aloes growing all across the continent of Africa. You can find them in Madagascar. You can find them around into the Arabian Peninsula and sparsely in other locations as well. And it's that diversity of habitats which has resulted in such diversity in terms of their growth forms. And that's what makes them so wonderfully collectible. So let's have a look at a few choice species. We might start with this one, shall we? Aloe castilloniae is a Madagascan species of aloe, and its most defining trait is the way that it hangs almost like chains off the edges of cliffs in its habitat. Makes for a really fascinating plant to grow in a greenhouse. Doesn't stay as one single stem. You can see this other one has got a pup coming out of the base, and what will happen in time, you'll have a whole, I suppose, emergence of all of these stems, creating this fantastic tangle of these toothy little leaves. Really quite a remarkable species, and undoubtedly my favourite. And the fact that it's got that dainty little spray of orange flowers, contrasting against a fairly hideous body, just adds to its appeal in my opinion. Anyway, let's look at some other forms. If you like your plants small, maybe you should look into what are called the grass aloes. In this pot, I've got a collection of seedlings. They're not indicative of the final size of this plant, but these are called Aloe bowiea. And Aloe bowiea kind of grows almost with a growth form that looks a little bit like a bulb at the base, from which sprays of leaves emerge, like tufts of grass. Hence the name grass aloes. It's not the only one, it's a whole bunch of them. Might be something worth exploring if that's your thing. However, if you're more into large plants, we can explore what are called the tree aloes. Recently they've been reclassified as a different family. They're called Aloidendron, but let's not pay too much attention to that now because they're still related. This one here is Aloidendron pillansii. It is the largest aloe species on the planet. Can grow many meters tall. They grow in the winter rainfall region of South Africa. Critically threatened. Relatively difficult to find in cultivation as well. I'm lucky to get my hands on this one. Now this is just a baby, as you can see, but it's already showing some of that fantastic size, and it will just continue to grow. Your tree aloes, like your Aloidendron pillansii, Aloidendron barbarae, many of the others, they're fantastic landscaping plants, especially for people who live in more arid, dry environments. If you've got a xeric garden, ideal. Although these guys, still not easy to find in the market. So that's big and small, but let's think about some of the different leaf forms that we can find as well. Now most of your aloes, they grow with a leaf pattern that we call a rosette, where just like a flower, you've got these leaves emerging in all directions from a central stem. But it doesn't have to be that way. And in fact, I would argue that my favourite aloes are those that grow with a very different leaf form. The word is disticus. And rather than explaining it to you, why don't I just show you? This is Aloe irafensis. It comes from the Yemeni island of Socotra in the Indian Ocean. And as you can see, the leaves kind of emerge from a single point going out each way. A lot of aloes will start their growth like this, and over time they'll turn into a rosette. But this is one of the fascinating ones that maintains this form for the duration of its life. A little bit like Aloe castilloniae, Aloe irafensis grows with a pendant growth pattern. In time, probably a very long time, it's such a slow grower, but in time this will start to hang over the edge of a pot if I put it into something like that. However, there is another, probably far more recognizable and far more common aloe, or what used to be an aloe, that also grows with a disticus leaf pattern. And we'll have a look at that one now. Now you might be wondering, why is he lying in the dirt? Well, I want to share with you some plants that are growing at the base of this bird bath, a little succulent rockery that I put together several years ago. And the king amongst them, the absolute best of any of the disticus leafed aloes, is this plant. It used to be called Aloe plicatilis. Not called that anymore. They reclassified it recently, Kumara plicatilis. But let's just pretend it's an aloe and hope nobody notices. What you'll find, this plant grows into quite a sizable shrub, even almost tree-like, with many branches coming up, and at the end of every branch, this stunning fan-like arrangement of leaves. It's why the common name of this plant is the fan aloe. You can see beside it, I don't know what this species of aloe is, but I'm sure someone can tell me in the comments. What it goes to show is that there are many aloes that will happily cope with landscape uses. Stick them out in the yard, leave them to their own devices. These plants just get rainwater, nothing else from me, and they happily just chug along. It's a fantastic setup, and they're so easy to care for. When you've got a plant like this that's easy to care for, why not delve into it? Now, let's get back over into the greenhouse and keep looking at the wonderful world of aloes, shall we? But you know what, before we do, I've noticed more than half of you who regularly watch this channel, you're not subscribers. So do yourself a favour, hit the subscribe button. You'll make me happy, and I'm sure you'll be happy too. I don't know, maybe I'll disappoint you. Anyway, let's get back in that greenhouse. Let's talk about aloe care. And why not start with propagation? Because we need to get our hands on a few of these plants somehow. When it comes to propagating aloes, you've got two options. You can raise them from seed and you can grow them from cutting. When it comes to growing them from cutting, well, one thing that we need to really be aware of is the fact that they will not grow from a leaf cutting. Unlike many succulents that will happily send out roots from a leaf, aloes, not going to happen. So there needs to at least be a bit of stem attached. If you do have a bit of stem attached though, the cuttings, they grow rapidly and very, very happily. This here, this is some random aloe I picked up out the front of a neighbour's house recently. I don't know what it is, maybe just some sort of garden hybrid. Pretty weird looking. I love how they look like twisted Lovecraftian monsters. Anyway, I digress. Picked it up, thought, oh yeah, I'll propagate that. Chucked it in the backyard and promptly forgot about it. Then today I thought, oh, you know what, I should have a look at that plant. I'm making a video on aloes, and lo and behold, what do I find? But just sitting in its place, it started putting out roots everywhere. That's how easy it is to grow these plants from cutting. Now, I probably wouldn't take that relaxed approach if I was propagating something rare like your castilloniae, but it is indicative of just how happily they are taking from cuttings. When it comes to growing these plants from seed, pretty straightforward as well. What you can find is all you need to do, get a pot of relatively well-draining soil, sow some seeds on the surface, cover those seeds with a little bit of mineral mulch, and then water, heat, and in no time you'll start seeing leaves popping up. This is a pot of Aloe castilloniae seedlings, probably about 8 months old. What it shows you is that once the seeds have started popping up, all you need to do, keep them watered, give them an occasional bit of fertilizer, and off they go. These are ready for a repot pretty soon, I reckon. Pretty stunning, look at that. Now, the other thing that's worth knowing about propagating aloes from seed is that they hybridize readily. So if you're a bit of a mad scientist type and you like trying to create new forms of life, that's something you can try as well. This is a fairly unremarkable hybrid. Aloe castilloniae mixed with something else. Don't know what it is. And you can see it's got those little teeth like the castilloniae, but the leaf markings aren't nearly as exciting. I'm going to chalk this up as a failed experiment, but you know, you keep trying, you keep persisting with these things, and you might end up with the most remarkable plant you've ever seen. There's certainly a lot of aloe breeders out there, particularly in Southeast Asia, who are doing remarkable things with plants. Just have a look at these, for example. So that's aloe propagation, but let's talk about how to care for them once we've got them. When it comes to caring for your aloes, they're really not very fussy plants. Of course, there are some very rare exceptions to that rule, and they're not easy to find in cultivation. But for the most part, these plants, they don't need much love. When it comes to soil, a really nice, gritty, coarse soil. I use a mix that's about half organic, half chunky minerals. They seem pretty happy with that. They like to be exposed to a good bit of sun, out in the full sun. And when it comes to water, well, I water them usually a couple of times a week over the summertime, and that seems to do them well. A little bit of fertilizer as well, just to kick them along, no troubles at all. And if you do that, 95% of these plants are going to be really quite happy. One interesting thing that we need to note, however, is that quite a large percentage of them, they like to be underpotted. I'm not exactly sure why. Maybe it just replicates the sorts of rocky habitats that they live within. But a plant like this, for example, it's not going to do well in a bigger pot. It's not going to make it grow quicker. It's just going to make it sad. So, if in doubt, underpot. And of course, there are heaps of these plants that if you live in the right climate, you can even plant them out in the garden. Do your own research though before you do anything. I don't want anyone to go sticking a plant in the soil outside and then it packs it in the next frost or something like that. So just know where you live before you start doing anything particularly crazy. If you do all that, I've got no doubts that your aloes are going to be super happy and you're going to have a fantastic collection in no time. So that's just a few of the aloes for you. There's so many, many more. I really suggest that you go out and you do a bit of research and check out just what this family of plants has to offer, because I have no doubts you'll find something that'll catch your eye. Anyway, that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned something. Leave me a comment just to let me know your thoughts. I love reading them. I love replying to them. That's it for today. I'll catch you next time.